I think if we combine those, I think we might have a shot at just crushing cancer. I'd be ticked off at a leader that didn't say, okay, who's going to pay for it? Oh, these three companies are going to pay for it? Okay, go for it. See what you can do. I'd be ticked off if a leader didn't say that. Hot news of the day is I would say the social media talking head freak out of what happened yesterday at the White House. And if you missed it, the leaders of, Oracle, the leader of SoftBank, and the leader of OpenAI announced a $500 billion investment in the United States in AI. Ellison gets up there from Oracle and claims that we're going to cure cancer through some mRNA AI guided way to cure cancer, to come up with a cancer vaccine. The conservative pundits online, because on news anymore doesn't matter. On cable news, that doesn't matter. Alphabets and cable news are completely irrelevant now. It's all streaming. So the social media talking heads, the conservatives, I would say, save Charlie Kirk and maybe Ben Shapiro, are going to be up in arms about all of this. This is why we elected you, Donald Trump. We elected you because you knew that the jab was bogus. It wasn't a vaccine, and mRNA was not the right way to go with the COVID shot. So why would you possibly talk about mRNA toward a vaccine for cancer? Shut up. Just shut up. You have no idea what mRNA can do. You have no idea. You have no idea. Actually, to support your argument, you have no idea the breadth of adverse effects that the mRNA shot had for COVID. We haven't even scratched the surface on that yet. But you know not what you speak. You are not an mRNA expert. You are not a cancer treatment expert. You are not an expert on vaccine. So for those pundits that are screaming and hollering, Donald Trump, it only took 3 days for him to turn his back on us. Not even 3 days for him to turn his back on us and start throwing this nonsense about mRNA vaccines at us, this time with cancer. Again, I say, shut up. Just shut up. And here's why. I'm not a fan of vaccines. I'm not a fan of mRNA. I'm not a fan of any because I haven't looked into it. So I'm not an expert on the subject. But what I do know is give it some time. Things need to be worked on and perfected. No one said that mRNA was going to be used for a cancer vaccine tomorrow, not even in Operation Warp Speed. It is going to be experimented, tested, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And here we have these companies kicking in $500 billion to our economy to see if they can do it right, to see if they can actually make it happen. And you know what? If they can, great. And no, that is not what Donald Trump was elected for. It was not a one-item ticket. It was not the Biden administration handled the COVID vaccine so poorly and the mandates and all that. That had nothing to do with mRNA tech. That's what one of these several issues were that brought so many independents over to the Donald Trump camp and ultimately landed him in the White House, was the government overreach. It had nothing to do with the actual tech. It had to do with mandates. It had nothing to do with mRNA. Donald Trump has not turned his back on his voter base, has not turned his back on not even his voter base, those that just voted for him that just can't stand the guy, hasn't even turned his back on them. This is a technology that can be potentially used for great things. And if what was learned through the absolute debacle that was the COVID response, if anything can be learned, good, and applied to what not to do, moving forward with this, what they would call a cancer vaccine. If it's mandated, I'm against it. Every single one. And I would be shocked if it happens in the next 4 years and it is mandated. Be shocked. Odds are it won't happen. But if it does, hey, those that choose to do their own homework and do their own research and land on the side of, you know what, I'm going to take this this new mRNA cancer vaccine that just came out. Okay, good for you. And those that don't want it, don't want it. This has nothing to do with Donald Trump turning his back on his voting base. Settle down. It's fine. What happens is going to happen. And as long as it isn't mandated by the United States government, you have nothing to complain about. Nobody turned their back on anyone. And I would actually be concerned about a president of the United States that was told, hey, you know something? I think if we combine the mRNA and what we learned in COVID and what's going on with AI, I think if we combine those, I think we might have a shot at just crushing cancer. I'd be ticked off at a leader that didn't say, okay, who's going to pay for it? Oh, these 3 companies are going to pay for it? Okay, go for it. See what you can do. I'd be ticked off if a leader didn't say that. That's just me.